I can't believe they did the thing. Welcome back, everyone. We're here to talk about Fallout Season 2, Episode 8, the finale for Season 2, titled The Strip. I was wondering how this was all going to come together for the finale, and it didn't quite come together the way I was thinking it was going to, but there were a lot of really satisfying intersections when it comes to our main cast. We're going to be talking about the things that I felt worked, the things that I felt didn't quite work, and where this leaves us heading into Season 3. And also stay tuned, because I will be back in a couple days with a full season review, which I'll be filming after this one, talking about my thoughts on the season overall. Before we get into this, I want to know who has been your favorite character in Season 2, and who are you most excited to see more of in Season 3. Episode 8 is an episode that is attempting to kind of wrap up all of our plot points for this season. And there are some characters that I feel the show does this better with, and some characters that I feel not as much happened. Now, granted, if we go back to what I was talking about with the earlier episodes, this kind of tracks for what I expected in some ways. So let's start off with Lucy in this episode. I think Lucy has the most satisfying character arc in this season, just in the way that Ella Purnell is actually showcased. And I think Maximus still has one of the most interesting stories of the season, but there were some things that I felt were missing in comparison to Lucy. So with Lucy, we've been building up to this idea of, Lucy is this good character. If we're doing the good, the bad, and the ugly, which clearly Fallout is attempting to do, Lucy is definitely known as being the good for the most part. However, in this season, we were seeing some moral dilemmas for Lucy. We saw her struggle with substances. We saw her question whether or not what she's doing is the right thing in dealing with her father. And in this episode, she actually has to come to terms with what is the right choice here. Ultimately, she ends up choosing to stop the conversion programming that her dad is doing and confronts him head on. And he responds by trying to take Lucy and turn her into one of these automatons that he's been making. That's right, he's going to program his own daughter. Fortunately, this is when the Ghoul's path intersects with Lucy again, and as he's gaining access to go on his own quest, which we'll talk about probably last here because the Ghoul is really leading into where we're going with the next season, he shows up and he kind of saves the day by attacking Hank and ultimately saving Lucy, shooting him right in the booty, which I gotta say, I loved. And I also love that the Ghoul gives Lucy the chance to decide how she wants to deal with Hank, giving her the full agency here of just, this is her dad and it's her choice. And the Ghoul even acknowledges if it was up to him, he would not be shooting this guy in the butt. He'd be shooting him somewhere else. But she also has the choice of her dad's programming. And even though it's not going to be, I assume, the same, we never really get into this because after the revelation of the last episode, with it being revealed that the Congresswoman is the head that they're using to kind of reset everyone and reprogram them, Lucy takes this out, and yet she's still able to convert her dad, potentially. So I don't know if this means that when they're converted, they're just going to kind of be reset, as opposed to being good people, or if the programming's already kind of in there, so while they saved the Congresswoman. So while Lucy took out the Congresswoman in an effort to put her out of her misery, I don't know what that means for how the programming will go moving forward. And something that Lucy has to confront is this idea of what to do with her dad. Does she take him out? Does she reprogram him? Ultimately, she decides to do that, but she has some questions for him first in regards to what his plan was here, so she can make sure, I think, that there is justice and she is able to handle that if there's anything else that she needs to wrap up. And it sounds like Hank's plan was to reset the entire wasteland. I'm not sure how big of an operation this is, but he does say that the tiny versions of the device that go into the back of people's necks, that is what they're putting out into the wasteland, so that you won't even be able to tell who's really reset. And there are apparently boxes and boxes of these things. So potentially that could make a huge change in the Wasteland and the way that people behave in it. But I don't know how many associates Hank has sent out. He has been converting people pretty much the entire season, though. So it could be a lot. So Lucy might have a lot of work on her hands going into season 3 if she wants to stop this. However, before she can get more information from her dad, he has his own controller and he decides to convert himself before Lucy can do this to him. And I feel like Lucy having to actually confront the fact that she's really losing her dad here was intense. And even though she's been on this path of justice and kind of revenge on her dad, I think this is the first moment in this finale where she's had to really acknowledge what that means. The loss of her past, the loss of kind of her innocence is basically what season 2 I think is really about. Because in season 1, I think she's still holding on to it. And so I thought that that was beautifully sort of summed up in this finale for the character. And Lucy isn't the only one, of course, that is on the strip. As she wanders out into the wasteland in her yellow dress, she comes across another main character, and that, of course, is none other than Maximus. And Maximus's journey in this finale was basically fighting a pack of Deathclaws, which was, I gotta say, so fun to watch. I thought they did a great job with it. I thought it was very satisfying as someone who has fought Deathclaws in Fallout before and knows how terrifying that is. And I was rooting for Maximus, and I love how they show how degenerate just everyone on the strip is in Vegas, where everyone's betting against Maximus, even though if he dies, they're all going to die because he's the only thing standing between them and the Deathclaws right now. So I thought that that was pretty crazy, and I loved that. I thought that that was all really well done. However, I feel like for emotional beats, we didn't get as many from Aaron Moten in this finale, and I don't think it's for any lack on Aaron's side. I actually think that this is just the way that they kind of chose to wrap up his story for season 2 and the way that they shot it a little bit or edited it. I don't know how many takes they had of Aaron, but they seem to focus heavily in the end when he and Lucy are back together, mostly on Ella Purnell. I do love that we get a callback to Maximus's origin story with him saying goodbye to his parents and this moment for him facing the Deathclaws being a realization of a dream where he just wants to be a hero and be seen as a hero, and he gets to step into that role. And he does end up needing help. Thaddeus, of course, on the rooftop, helping him by sniping with his foot, which I thought was amazing and hilarious. And I don't know what's happening to Thaddeus, but I'm at this point, I don't think he's turning into a super mutant. I'm not sure if he's turning into a glowing one. He could be turning into something else entirely. And it could be something even more horrific than I would have imagined. I mean, there are a lot of other things in the Wasteland, and I've been looking through some of them, and yeah, whatever happens, we gotta wait till next season, because Thaddeus also doesn't really get as much closure in this finale. And I felt that Maximus, yeah, just got some of the least closure in a way that was satisfying. I think they brought his arc kind of to its end for the season. I just wish that it had been better captured. Also, I gotta say, I loved the one thing that I was amazed by that I talked about in my intro. Let me talk about this. I just started playing Fallout New Vegas, and at the intro of the game, there is, of course, that famous shot with the NCR shooting the rifle, and we just follow the bullet, and I can't believe they actually did that in season 2 of Fallout. Well done. That was such a fun moment for me. And I think there were a lot of fun moments in Maximus's part, don't get me wrong, in terms of callbacks to the games. Like I said, the Deathclaw fight, when the NCR come in, seeing him get to play that hero character that he's always wanted to be, it was satisfying, but I just feel like there was a little bit missing. So when it comes to Lucy and Maximus getting to have these moments together, I do love that we decided to not do the kiss, and that instead we moved to just the two of them in an embrace, because they haven't seen each other for a while. So while I think visually there could be some appeal to that in terms of how you could shoot it, I liked the hug because it felt more grounded. And I feel like if they kissed, it would have felt a bit cheese, you know, too cheese for me. But I'm excited to see how they continue on together, hopefully in season 3. And I love that they are now reunited. I can't wait for some Maximus Lucy shenanigans, hopefully in season 3. Hopefully they don't split them up immediately. And of course, we need to talk about the Ghoul, because when it comes to where we're heading in season 3, the Ghoul is the character that I think is going to be guiding our way the most. Obviously, there's been a lot of stuff with the Enclave in season 2, and now we have the Ghoul literally heading to Colorado to likely confront the Enclave, which is where I'm assuming his wife and daughter are. So we're going to be heading there, and I don't know really what inspiration we're going to be taking from specifically in this one. Going to the Enclave gives me the vibes of Fallout 3, but I also felt like, based on some of the stuff that we were setting up in season 2, that Fallout 4 could have been where we were heading next, because the Ghoul is looking for his daughter and his wife, which, you know, is our journey there. Well, I mean, your partner's dead in Fallout 4, and goodness knows I spent so long on that character creator in Fallout 4 only to find out that my partner was going to be gone. So that was a great kind of waste of my time. However, it does affect how your kid looks. So I guess, you know, there's that. But I think that the thing that was a little, it's like got pros and cons to it, I guess. But I think the end of Fallout Season 2 ultimately has pros and cons to it. I like the fact that we have laid so much foundation work for where we're heading with Season 3. I mean, we also have Norm, who's out in the wasteland, and he's now learning about what's going on in the vault. We still don't know what's going to happen with Steph in the vault. That's all kind of been left on a cliffhanger. It seems, based on what I've seen in the finale and based on what we've seen leading up to it, that she might have something that can turn people in the vaults into super mutants. That seems like where we might be headed, but we're leaving it on a bit of a cliffhanger with those characters. And with the Ghoul, it's the same kind of thing. He's made this journey all the way to Vegas to try to find his family and is guided by Mr. House into where we're at. And, you know, his family actually isn't in the facility. They're just not there. They're gone. And so while he has a clue to where to go next, I feel like we didn't really get to do too much with him in this season, other than mess him up really bad physically and watch him struggle to get to this point. I guess maybe that's just his journey, is to show us what he's willing to lay on the line, which is pretty much everything, to save his family. And I think season 3 is going to be a very moving season for the Ghoul, so don't get me wrong, I'm excited for what we're building up, but it does leave me feel a little bit dissatisfied when it comes to season 2, which I'll expand more, I think, in my full season review. I want to talk a little bit more about Mr. House. I want to talk a little bit more about the Legion in that. We do have the Legion also set up to try and take over Vegas, with Macaulay Culkin actually getting to do a little bit more, which was nice. There's a lot of things in the finale that are more setups for season 3, which, you know, I am excited for season 3, so I'll be back, and I think that that's cool that we have a direction for where we're headed. But in comparison to something like season 1, which felt like more of a complete story, which, by the way, I think is all free right now on YouTube if you want to watch season 1, if you haven't been watching and you've just been following along through my reviews, maybe, which would be kind of weird, but hey, you do you. So yeah, let me know what you think of this finale. For me, it was a little like, there was stuff that I liked, and then there was some stuff that I didn't like. Also, that weird ADR line with Maximus when he's holding Lucy's hand and he says, "Welcome to the wasteland." That was not great. Although the de-aging in this show, that was pretty good. So, you know, there's pros and cons to the finale for me. Overall, it was good. I'm excited for season 3, and that's where I'm going to leave it. I'll see you guys in the next one, and until next time, as always, stay nerdy. Bye! And if you missed my previous review of Fallout, you can check that out over here.